Welcome back to BlockDesk News, and today it is stocks day and a lot happening in the stock market. I'm sure all of you have seen what's going on in Korea and what happened the day before. The biggest spenders in tech have to open their books. That's timing and one of the biggest stories that we're going to be discussing in our quick show tonight. So let's get off from the beginning. Seoul stocks close over 3% higher on chip rebound. So the Kospi closed today at 3.5%, 3.56% actually, 6,747. 2 straight losing days before this, and then it turned. Samsung Electronics finished up 6.15% and SK Hynix up 4.08%. So this move is happening really quickly, and there's a lot of videos that you're going to see online in regards to the market actually crashing. Like the Korean AI bubble is crashing. I'm going to show you a quick video about this as well. But what I want to tell you is that if you look at the numbers, if you really look into them, foreigners and institutions took in 1.67 trillion won today. And retail investors sold 1.64 trillion won. So the big money bought this dip, and the crowd basically just handed it to them. And that wasn't just the mood of the market. Korean chip exports, first 20 days of this month, are up 180.6% on last year. That's not a forecast. That's product already out the door. So that's why. So why did the Korean chips rip today? That's the big question, right? And part of the answer comes from California. And I'm going to talk about this. I want to show you a quick video. So this is Andre G. Look, his content is great. I'm not saying there's a lot happening in the markets at the moment. He brought this video out very quickly. I'm just discussing the updates happening right now. But let's quickly have an overview of what's actually happened.
South Korea had the best performing stock market in the world.
It went
This basically is something called the Kospi, and it's gone up almost 200% in the last 12 months.
Right.
Compared to other stock markets like the US's S&P 500, which only made 24%, South Korea was just on another level.
It went
At one point this year, one of their companies, Samsung, was up over 500%, and SK Hynix was up over 1,000%. That's basically a 10x on your money, which is just unheard of. Now, here in the US,
well,
equivalent of the stock market is something called the S&P 500, represented by ETFs like this one, VOO.
So look, long story short, in Korea, especially in South Korea, the whole stock market is basically Samsung and a couple other companies. In America, it's 500 companies, which is the S&P 500. That's why it's called the 500, S&P 500. So what happens is a lot of people in South Korea at the moment, and Koreans, they're not really able to buy housing because it's so expensive. So there was a big influencer, and there was a lot of discussion about this actually. And they said your last chance to make generational wealth is to invest in the stock market. And a lot of these Korean people have taken out loans, spent their wages to invest in the stock market. That's why you saw such a big boom in the Korean market. And you're potentially going to see this continuous big boom in the Korean market. Now, the AI bubble might have popped. He might be right here. But I strongly recommend for all of you to be looking at the Korean market, because a lot of people in Korea are investing heavily into stocks, especially in their market. You can be looking at bigger companies like Samsung. You guys know I'm not a big fan of recommending larger companies, but hey, here we are, right? This all makes sense to invest into, because every South Korean is going to invest into Samsung. That's where it's from, right? So keep that in mind. I really wanted to share this update. There's a lot happening and there's a lot of ups and downs, but I still think there's room to grow in this market. And there's going to be more investments coming into South Korea. Only time will tell. Obviously, we'll keep you up to date. And yeah, that's really it. And like I said, it all revolves around California at the moment. So Google is building Gemini into silicon. So yesterday on Monday, the information reported Google is designing a server chip with parts of the Gemini model built directly into the hardware. So obviously Google is the frontier of AI. It might not look like it. We got ChatGPT, we got Claude, we got Gemini. All right, obviously that's Google's, but Google is far ahead of everybody in this world. They just don't release everything at the same time, right? So the internal name is Frozen version 2, and the logic is simple. Fix the model into silicon, and the chip stops working. The chip stops doing the work that it doesn't need to do, basically. Fewer calculations, shorter distances for the data to travel. So engineers on the estimate 6 to 10 times the token per watt against Google current chips. This is just insane chip technology. Alphabet rose as much as 3.7% on that report alone yesterday. And now here's the honest caveat that I don't want anyone to miss. This is a report, not a product. It could ship as late as 2028. Well, hold on to this the direction of it. Google already makes its own chips. This is them going one step further, because that's what the whole race is really all about. Everyone at the top is trying to stop paying somebody else's margin on compute, right? This is what we're clearly seeing. And tomorrow night, we find out that that's what's costing them the most money. And that's where the bill comes in tomorrow, right? Comes in tomorrow night. Alphabet reports tomorrow after close. Tesla is doing the same on the evening. Intel follows on Thursday. This is the week I've been talking to you guys about. The amount of reports that are coming in, like you're going to be seeing a lot of volatility this week. If you're a stock investor, I highly recommend you look at these AI stocks, all these companies which provide chips for AI data centers, who provide the circuitry for AI data centers. Because what you're going to be seeing is year on year, all of these companies are going to be up, and the stock prices are very likely to be going up this week after these reports are going to happen. So let's start with Alphabet. They've built full year spending to between 180 to 190 billion dollars. 3 years ago, that number was 32 billion. And Alphabet is obviously the parent company, of Google, and like they own a lot, right? And it's gone up more than 5 times over from then. Cloud revenue grew 63% in the last quarter, they reported. And in that same quarter, free cash flow fell 47% down to 10.1 billion. So they're spending, these companies are spending, their profits are most likely going to be going up because this AI bubble, everyone's waiting for it to pop. It's not going to pop so soon because companies are still rushing to make general artificial intelligence. They're still trying to make the best models. This isn't going to end today. Don't think this bubble's bursting tonight. That's a record order book and cash draining out the bottom while they build. And building is key for stocks going up, right? The finance chief said they convert more than half of the backlog inside the 2 years. Tomorrow's night is when they get asked to show it, basically. Then Tesla in the same evening. So you're looking at Alphabet, you're looking at Tesla all tomorrow. And they already told us the deliveries, 126,000 cars last quarter, a record more than 74,000 above the analyst expected. So when this news goes out tomorrow, it's going to be above what analysts expect. Price will go up, right? Naturally. Obviously, it's not financial advice, but this is just the way the markets work. The cars aren't what people are paying for anymore. They're paying for robo-taxis and for Optimus, the robots being built. Potential mergers happening, right? When spending guidance for the year went up 25 billion to fund all of it, right? So companies are spending into robotics, into AI, and obviously stocks are going to follow, right? Because the profit margins are going to go up. The options market is positioned for a move of about 7.6% either way. So you're looking at 7.6% up or down, right? And it's up to you. Like the reports tell me it's going to go up around that margin. So a good 5% increase is my honest take on it. The Intel is on Thursday, so Intel is going to be doing their reports up more than 163%. It was one of our top picks, actually. I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. They performed fantastically. We made a lot of money on that one. But last quarter, foundry revenue from outside customers was $174 million against $2.4 billion operating loss in that same division. A 163% run needs Thursday to close the gap. And one number to keep in your head through all of it is S&P 500 earnings growth this quarter is running at 24.7%. Take out Micron and Nvidia and it falls to 16.8%. So Micron and Nvidia is really, damn, they're carrying a lot of that market. That's like over 8%. That's so crazy. Two companies are carrying 8 points of the index, of the entire index. Now, Alphabet and Tesla aren't the only ones on the clock tomorrow. There's one more name stepping on stage, and it's waking up basically wounded, right? AMD is on stage tomorrow as well. And AMD holds this advanced AI event tomorrow and Thursday in San Francisco. And there's two things that you should be expecting from this. Zen 6 Venice, their 6th generation server processor built on TSMC's 2 nanometer line, around 1.7 times the performance of the last one, and a roadmap update on the ML455X, the next data center GPU. So they're releasing a lot tomorrow, and this news is very likely going to hype up the market, right? Depends on how people take it, depends on the performance, depends if it meets target expectations. Now, the setup is going on, and I'm giving you Friday's close here before that's the last clean read of tonight, basically. So this is the stock market up to Friday, what you should be looking out for, all told to you today, because our stock market segments are only as on Tuesdays. But here, what matters and why I fell. There was no bad news out of AMD, no lost customers, no delays. TSMC raised own spending budget and the entire chip sector sold off together, basically. So potentially this is good coming into the news, which are coming on Thursday. So only time will tell. Usually when the news comes, the market dumps because the anticipation is what builds up bullish momentum, right? You always buy the news and then, or you buy the hype, right? And you sell the news, as they say. So whenever you're hearing the hype and the news is going to come on Thursday, you buy it until then usually. But now it seems like the market is acting the opposite. And let's see what happens on Thursday. Leave a comment if you're watching this on Thursday. See what happens. Let me know which way it went. AMD earnings land August the 4th, by the way. If I'm going to pick, it's going to be Alphabet and Tesla reporting tomorrow. Just keep an eye out of it. I don't really have a pick of the week and stocks for you. I don't just like to pick random stocks. When I pick them, we usually win. So for this week, I'm going to leave it out. So I'm going to sign off with no pick of the week. I hope the information has been useful. And just to wrap it up, Korea's chips ripped today. Google's trying to build its own model in its own silicon, which is big for Alphabet. And tomorrow, the biggest spenders in tech finally have to show the spending works. Tomorrow is going to be a big day in stocks. So I'm back tomorrow with the trading card segment. We're going to discuss TCG, Pokemon, One Piece, and what's going on in that world. But that's it for today. For BlockDesk News, I hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you tomorrow. All the best. Bye-bye.